I got my fist gloves. It is 88 degrees here. No, just kidding. It is 85 degrees and sunny today in Tulsa. Beautiful. A little bit warm, actually. It's just one of those things that you're like, oh, I'm waiting for it to warm up, and then, ugh, now I'm sweating. How does this happen so quickly? But we're coming up on Easter this weekend. The world is still under, I don't even know what, shelter in place, safer at home. Who knows what they're calling it. But we're going to get out and ride regardless. All right. Hello, all you beautiful people out there. We're going to go for a ride. I'm riding this fancy Breakout with a big fat back tire. New tires overall, just fancy. Got MrsNutt with me. He's going to ride my pretty fat Bob.
You haven't ridden it since I put the new tires on it.
I can't remember if I have or not, but we're going to go today. One way or the other, we're going to see it. So, come along. Here we go.
Seriously?
Yes, right in there. Super annoying. First 5 seconds. Fucking rude ass bug.
Yeah, so compared to stock, the Breakout's now running a 250 millimeter back tire, which is 10 millimeters wider than stock. Seems to give it a flatter profile and a little bit more patch on the road, but I'll let you be the judge.
Yeah, I think I rode it one evening since you did the tires, and I think it was one of those like moments where I was like, oh, you know what, there are new tires on this, and I was supposed to be thinking about it. And what's funny is every time I ride this bike, I'm always like, after I take my first turn, right or left generally, I have to think about the fact that I need to be, oh, there we go. I think about the fact that I need to push down harder in my turns because it has a big, fat, heavy tire. But I think that I noticed, was one of those, like, I noticed after my first turn that I didn't have to push down so hard, that the back tire really made a difference, that it having more contact, I didn't have to push as hard.
I've noticed the same thing, but some people say it doesn't make a big difference.
I feel like it did because I really know that I'm conscious on this bike after the first turn or curve that I'm like, oh, I have to remember what bike I'm riding right now because this bike takes more effort kind of thing. Oh, somebody just, what the fudge? Are you stopping?
Yeah.
All right. So, there's that. Poor guy.
Yeah, playing on those Groms.
Yeah,
looks like he just hit the curb.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got too close to the guy next to him and was trying to get away from him or what.
Something, I'm not sure exactly, but I'm like, oh, there's a whole bunch of guys, and then it was like, oh, there's a guy who's not on his bike anymore. That's not good. Thank goodness he was able to be, he's conscious and
Right.
able of what's going on. And luckily this road is not very busy, especially right now.
I think one reason I've always loved Harleys is because they are really street bikes.
Right.
And, I don't want to denigrate anyone. I mean, everybody has their own love, and we've had a couple people already comment about, their $13,000 Hayabusa and how fast it is and how quick it is and all that good stuff. And, there's obviously, everybody's got individual tastes on motorcycles.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I've never felt on the street, I mean, I'll be honest with you, riding that Breakout that you're riding right now is the one bike that I think I get a little bit crazy on.
Right. A little more reckless than other times.
Yeah,
or other bikes.
I feel really confident on it, and I mean, the bike's...
Yeah, it's a real sturdy,
It's very quick.
It is.
And I mean, getting that bike up to speed and running it along the highway at speed, it rides really nice.
It does. I feel the same way about my Fat Bob, though, actually. Is not that, the street glides, obviously, but they're baggers. They're made for that. But my Fat Bob, I feel so nimble but still really it's so solid. Like, it's not, it's funny because I could compare it to driving big diesel trucks. And I've driven big old trucks, and the steering feels so loose on them that you're like, really, this is a huge truck. I feel like it should be tighter and in more control than you feel like it has. Where on these bikes, they're small, comparatively. They're heavy still for the most part, but like the Breakout is a fairly light bike. It's heavy because of its tires. The Fat Bob is not is a pretty light bike, but they feel so solid. You can just tell they're so quality made. Everything from the frame, the engine, everything about them is just so quality made. I feel like that they feel so solid while you're riding that at speed, at anything. They just are good. They're just good.
Well, and that's kind of, again, it's made for the street. It's not made for the track.
Right, and I wouldn't want to ride it like you would ride a track bike. Oh my gosh, we've watched some of those videos of those guys, and they are. They're riding bikes meant to do that. These bikes are not.
Well, and then they put those bikes on the street.
And that's dangerous.
Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't. Yeah. I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy them.
No.
I'm not one that says there should be laws against it or anything like that. But, those are the bikes, by and large, that I see wiped out like that in some little accident where somebody tried to do something either too quickly or they weren't paying attention or something like that.
Right. Yeah, but we were just on Riverside like a week ago actually, and there was another group of guys, and that had an accident almost in that same spot, just going the opposite direction.
Yeah, they had a run-in with a car, and that was a pretty bad accident.
Yeah, there were 3 bikes that were injured in a car, I guess, as well.
But the last video that we did was the day after Tulsa put in place their shelter-in-place order. And we kind of drove around and showed some of the places and the fact that a lot of places were in use. And I think what's going to happen today is people are going to notice that even though people are using the river trails, people are getting out and recreating, there's not as much congestion in the parking lots as there was a week ago.
Right.
And there's not, people are keeping a really good distance on the trails.
Yeah, and they've released a post, basically, River Trails did, that basically talked about, they don't want to have to close the trails, so keep your social distancing and don't ruin it for everybody kind of thing. But,
and for us, we're property rights people and we're liberty people, and we just don't see a role for government to shut down private business.
No.
And I know other people feel differently, but to me, if you're vulnerable, that's, those are the ones that I was watching a doctor, I believe he's a Harvard doctor, and that's basically what he talked about, was the fact that it should be the older people and the vulnerable who are sheltering in place. Retirement homes and convalescent homes should be closed to the public. But for the most part, if you feel vulnerable to the disease, or if you feel that it's going to get you and do great harm to you, that's what you got property rights for. You can control who can come on and off your property, and you can elect to close your business. It does bother me that all these businesses are closed, and I know there's going to be some adverse opinions on that, but to me, I just don't see a role for an authority to close business for any reason.
No, because you just don't even have the law. You have no
driving again by River Spirit Casino. And
It's empty.
it's empty, it's closed. And, you know, casinos, I think, are probably the one business that can take that. They're a very high profit margin business.
Right. But they employ a ton of people.
Yeah, they do.
So, let's change gears here. Let's move back to like motorcycles. Because that's way more fun. Way more fun than talking about all this craziness in our world. You know, we haven't ridden in a couple of days because the weather's been kind of crappy. It's been so rainy. I hate these jackasses that freaking mow like this.
Man.
So dangerous for motorcycles. You jerky.
Fuck you,
Ugh.
asshole.
Besides the blowback, the stuff in the street's awful. So, you know, here's a public service announcement.
Here's a public service announcement. If you mow lawns, don't mow the grass into the fucking street.
Yeah, clean up your freaking clippings. It's so dangerous for motorcycles. There's going to be a lot on the road because we're starting to come into spring. So, yeah, after riding the Breakout again here with the new tire. Oh, we got stuff going on. Let's move over. Thank you. You know, I like the big tire in the back, the bigger tire, the 250 compared to the 240, which is stock. And I feel like it grabs more. I feel like it just gives you a wider base that's, you know, stuck to the street kind of thing. So my struggle in turning on this bad boy is not been the tires, which generally that would be what it is. It's that the power band on this thing is just different than I'm used to, and it's higher. So I got to run higher RPMs, which makes my slow right turns just a little bit trickier. There's like a fine line where the throttle is too much and then too little.
You know, I do think that the best way to cope with what's going on out there, regardless of your beliefs, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know where I would be if I couldn't get on my bikes and ride.
I know.
You know, those areas where the people are, you know, they feel that they're locked down to the point where they can't get out and ride, I know it's got to be driving people nuts to have this kind of weather.
Oh, yeah.
And not be able to get out and ride.
Oh, yeah. We had so many places are just coming into spring. They're still dealing with snow every now and then and rain. And then to be home and now spring happening, it's like, oh, the time of year we all want to be on our bikes. And there are places, I believe, that they are telling people not to leave their house unless they're going to the store, to the doctor, to the pharmacy, not just to be out wandering. But I don't know, to me, I feel like I'd still want to be riding. So one of those questions I think we could pose to people is, if you get to ride year-round, like we do, I mean, we can't ride every day or anything in the winter, but we can ride probably at least once a week.
We don't winterize our bikes.
We don't winterize our bikes. So if you're one of those that doesn't winterize your bike, what do you change? What do you do different, if anything, on your bikes and your gear and stuff to change over from winter riding to summer riding? We'd love to know your comments and thoughts if you want to share. The world is still kind of going. We hope that everybody is staying smart, staying safe, staying healthy, doing what's best for you, getting out, getting your mental health days, getting that WindTherapy